Whether you're about to watch Lord of the Mysteries Special Episode 1, City of Silver, or you've just finished it, you're probably wondering one thing. What on earth just happened? City of Silver takes us far beyond the familiar streets of Tingen and into a nightmare realm of eternal darkness, apocalyptic lightning, horrifying monsters, and ancient curses. Here, survival is so brutal that a young boy named Derrick Berg is forced to make a choice that no child should ever face. But this isn't just another side story. The City of Silver contains some of the deepest secrets in the entire Lord of the Mysteries universe. Its history is tied to forgotten gods, the catastrophe that shattered the world, and the mysterious existence of the Fool himself. Who is Derrick Berg? Why is the City of Silver trapped in endless darkness? What curse haunts its people? And how does this isolated city become one of the most important forces in Klein Moretti's journey? Today, we're breaking down the City of Silver arc, explaining its lore, its curse, its monsters, and Derrick Berg's fateful first encounter with the Fool. For those curious about the source material, this special adapts roughly chapters 136 to 139 of the original novel. Welcome to the darkness. First and foremost, we need to clear up the biggest misconception about this special episode: the timeline. If you're an anime-only watcher, it is completely natural to assume that the events of this special episode take place after the massive Season 1 finale. You might think this is Season 2 material, happening after Klein's tragic encounter with Megose and the true creator Spawn. But in reality, this story has been happening right under our noses the entire time. These events run completely concurrently with Season 1. While Klein was busy adapting to his new life as a seer hunting down kidnappers, investigating Lanevis, and dealing with the Antigonus family's notebook in Tingen Derrick Berg's tragic story was unfolding far, far away in a forgotten, cursed corner of the world. The animation studio brilliantly decided to package this arc into a special episode so it wouldn't disrupt the pacing of Klein's earthly detective work during the main season. In fact, the setup for this special episode actually began all the way back in chapter 95 of the novel. To understand how Klein and Derrick cross paths, we have to look at the mechanics of the Sephira Castle, the mysterious space above the gray fog. During Klein's early experiments with this divine hall, he realized that he could connect with the crimson stars floating in the endless mist. He had already used these stars to pull in Audrey Hall and Alger Wilson, creating the founding members of the Tarot Club, Justice, and the Hanged Man. But there was another star, a star that Klein hadn't fully interacted with yet. This particular star was constantly flashing with a faint rhythmic pulse, indicating that someone, somewhere in the real world, was praying with intense spiritual resonance. When Klein first extended his spirituality to touch this pulsing star, he didn't pull a person into the fog. Instead, the fog acted as a one-way mirror. A hazy, contorted image appeared within Klein's sight. He could faintly see a blonde teenager kneeling on the ground, facing a pure, glowing crystal ball. Klein noted that the teenager was dressed in a tight-fitting black outfit, a style that was completely different from the contemporary Victorian-era styles of the Low-End Kingdom. It looked incredibly ancient. But the real shock came when Klein tried to listen to the boy's desperate prayers. Klein, who sits upon the seat of honor as the mysterious, omnipotent ruler of the Grey Fog, couldn't understand a single word the boy was saying. That's right, Klein experienced a moment of absolute panic and embarrassment. Here he is, pretending to be a godlike entity, and he is failing a basic listening comprehension test. In the novel, Klein actually lampoons himself, thinking, "To think that I cannot understand a foreign language, even though I am the mysterious ruler of this world above the gray fog." However, Klein's background as a university history graduate kicks in. He listens closely and realizes that the boy's language isn't just gibberish. It shares linguistic roots with ancient Faesak, which is the root of all modern languages in the northern continent. Klein quickly deduces that the boy is speaking a dialect of Jotun, the ancient language of the giants. This is a massive lore drop. Jotun is an ancient language from the Second Epoch, the Dark Epoch, thousands of years before the current era. The fact that a living human is speaking it means this boy belongs to an isolated civilization that has been cut off from the rest of the world for millennia. Determined not to look foolish, Klein actually spends the next few weeks in the real world hitting the books. He uses his connections at the Koi University History Department to study ancient Jotun vocabulary. He crams for this translation like a college student preparing for a final exam. Finally, in chapter 136, Klein touches the Crimson Star again. Armed with his newly acquired Jotun vocabulary, the Grey Fog's translation properties sync up, and Klein finally understands the tragic, desperate words echoing from the void. O magnificent deity, please cast your eyes on this land that you have forsaken. O magnificent deity, please allow us, the people of the dark, to be freed from the curse of our destiny. I am willing to dedicate my life to you, using my blood to please you. Hearing these key phrases, a forsaken land, the people of the dark, a blood sacrifice to a magnificent deity, Klein realizes something terrifying. The boy isn't just from a different country or a hidden faction across the sea. He is trapped in a place of pure nightmares, a realm entirely cut off from the rest of the world. Klein pieces the clues together, his mind flashing back to the ominous rumors shared by the hanged man at the Tarot Club, and the secret, frustrated entries written in Emperor Roselle's diary. Roselle had once sent an entire mighty fleet across the dangerous oceans to search for this very place, only to fail completely. The boy is praying from a legendary mythic realm of darkness, the forsaken land of God. Squinting his eyes as the weight of this revelation sets in, Klein contemplates his next move. He taps his fingers rhythmically against the edge of the ancient bronze table. 1, 2, 3. With the third tap, his decision is made. Choosing to answer the desperate prayer, Klein extends his right hand and touches the illusory crimson star. Instantly, the crimson cloud explodes, and a brilliant, watery light floods the space, bridging the impossible gap between the Grey Fog and the Cursed Land. To truly understand the weight of this special episode, we have to talk about the world building of the Forsaken Land of God. In the confidential files of the Nighthawks and the various religious scriptures of the Orthodox churches, the Forsaken Land of God is nothing more than a myth. It is a terrifying legend from the end of the Second Epoch and the cataclysm of the Third Epoch. It is a land completely abandoned by the Creator. The environment of the City of Silver is a psychological nightmare. Imagine waking up every single day, but there is no sun in the sky, there is no moon, there are no stars. The sky is an oppressive, suffocating abyss of unchanging black. The only source of natural light comes from apocalyptic lightning storms that constantly threaten to tear the world apart. The people of the City of Silver don't have a normal concept of time, they measure their lives by these storms. When the lightning flashes and the sky is illuminated with a silver sheen, they call it day. When the lightning finally subsides and absolute complete darkness consumes the land, they call it night. And it is during this night that the true horrors begin. In the darkness, unimaginable monsters emerge. These are referred to as the Things of the Dark. They are twisted, corrupted creatures of immense power that prowl the borders of the city. The citizens must constantly keep candles and lanterns lit within the city walls, because the moment the light goes out, the monsters will strike. For over 2,500 years, the people here have fought a never-ending war for sheer survival. The land is so cursed that normal plants cannot grow. They survive entirely on a single, miserable, mutated crop called black-faced grass, which is the only reliable food source that can withstand the darkness. Because this city was once ruled by the giant king Ormir during the ancient epochs, the City of Silver possesses the giant sequence pathway. Their society is entirely militarized. Their warriors advance through brutal life-or-death combat, consuming potions to become Sequence 9 warriors, Sequence 8 gladiators, Sequence 7 weapons masters, Sequence 6 dawn paladins, Sequence 5 guardians, and eventually Sequence 4 demon hunters. They are led by a 6-member council of the strongest Beyonders, including demigod-level experts. But despite their immense strength, they are trapped. They have explored the ruined, destroyed cities around them, finding only the bones of other civilizations that failed to survive the dark. But the monsters outside the city walls are not the true horror of the Forsaken Land of God. The true horror is the curse that flows in their very blood. The curse that forces Derrick Berg to do the unthinkable. This brings us to the harrowing, heartbreaking events of Chapter 137, appropriately titled City of Silver. We finally meet the boy from the vision face to face, Derrick Berg. Derrick is standing in the city's mortuary. His eyes are bloodshot and swollen from crying. In front of him are 2 wooden coffins containing his mother and father. They aren't completely dead yet. They are struggling to keep their eyes open, making weak attempts to heave for air. But the luster of their lives is fading, replaced by an irreversible, terrifying darkening of their skin. In the City of Silver, death is not a peaceful rest. It is a ticking time bomb. The absolute most horrifying curse of the Forsaken Land of God dictates that whenever a human dies, their spirit and flesh instantly corrupt. They transform into horrifying, murderous evil spirits or zombies, and if a Beyonder dies, the evil spirit they become retains their supernatural powers, making them infinitely more terrifying and difficult to kill. In the past, there were many occasions where this curse nearly destroyed the City of Silver from the inside out. A single person dying in their sleep could trigger a massacre that wipes out an entire neighborhood before the guards arrive. To prevent the city from being annihilated, a brutal, unforgiving, and psychologically devastating law was established. Before a person fully dies and mutates, they must be killed. And they must be killed by someone who shares their own bloodline. Derrick's parents are mutating, and Derrick, a young teenage boy, is forced to be their executioner. Embedded in a stone plate in front of him is a simple silver sword. The elder, dressed in a long black robe, looks at the youth and commands in a deep voice, "Derrick, do it!" Derrick shakes his head repeatedly, stepping backward. His face is contorted in agony. He lets out an ear-piercing scream of refusal. No, no, no! The elder slams his staff onto the ground. He asks Derrick if he wishes for the entire city to be buried along with his parents. He reminds the boy of their grim reality. You should know that we are the people of the dark who have been forsaken by God. All the dead become horrifying evil spirits. There's no way to reverse it, other than ending their lives by the hands of a family member. Derrick falls into utter despair. He asks the question that has haunted generations of his people, why? Why are the citizens of the City of Silver destined to kill their parents the moment they are born? The elder closes his eyes, likely remembering the moment he had to do the exact same thing to his own family. He replies softly, "This is our destiny. This is the curse we must bear. This is the will of God. Draw your sword, Derrick. This is a show of respect for your parents." In the coffins, Derrick's father Berg tries to speak. He wants to comfort his son, but his mutation has gone too far. He can only let out a painful groan as his chest heaves. Derrick takes several steps forward, every step feeling like he is carrying a mountain. He extends his shivering right hand and grips the cold metal of the silver sword. His mind is completely flooded with memories of his parents' love and warmth. He remembers his childhood dream of wanting to be a brave knight. Now, that dream is a nightmare. A faint, choked sound croaks from Derrick's throat. With a low grunt, he exerts all his force, draws the sword, and drives it down into the coffin. Blood splatters instantly. It splashes across Derrick's face. It drips into his eyes. His vision literally turns red. He pulls the sword out and pierces it into the second coffin. His grip releases. He wavers as he stands up. He doesn't even look down at the bodies. Derrick stumbles out of the mortuary, running as fast as he can, as if he is being chased by the very evil spirits he just prevented from forming. His fists are clenched so tight his nails dig into his palms. The blood on his face leaves long, dark streaks as it mixes with his tears, traumatized, blood-stained, and utterly shattered. Derrick runs through the dark streets of the city. He doesn't have anywhere to go, but his feet naturally carry him back to his house. He unlocks the door. He sees the familiar sights, the furniture, the hearth. But the house is empty. It is freezing cold. He will never hear his mother's concerned voice again. He will never hear his father reprimanding him. Derrick clenches his teeth, fighting through the psychological break. He walks into his room and retrieves a pure crystal ball. His father had told him that this crystal ball was an ancient artifact used by a long-destroyed city to worship their deity. Derrick kneels before the crystal ball. He has lost his parents. He has lost his hope. He is drowning in a world of darkness, so he prays. He doesn't pray to the orthodox gods of the outside world because they do not exist here. He prays to the Creator. O magnificent deity, please cast your eyes on this land that you have forsaken. Please allow us, the people of the dark, to be freed from the curse of our destiny. I am willing to dedicate my life to you, using my blood to please you. The crystal ball suddenly glows with a liquid dark red light. It expands rapidly like flowing water, swallowing Derrick completely. Transition to the gray fog. Derrick opens his eyes to see the towering pillars and the bronze table over and over again. In complete despair, he repeats this plea, and then something impossible happens. A dark red glow bursts forth from the pure crystal ball. The light flows like water, instantly swallowing Derrick. When Derrick regains his senses, the freezing darkness of his bedroom is gone. He finds himself standing in a magnificent, boundless palace supported by giant stone pillars. A thick, ancient gray fog swirls around him, and at the far end of a long, mottled bronze table sits a human figure obscured by the mist. Derrick's heart stops. A flame of hope ignites in his chest. He stares at this towering, mysterious entity, utterly confused and awestruck. He asks the only question that makes sense to him. Are you God? Now, let's look at this incredible moment from Klein's perspective. Klein has just successfully pulled a human being across the world. Straight into the Saphira castle, he hears this blood-stained teenager ask if he is God. Inside his head, Klein is sweating bullets. He thinks to himself, "Hey, I'm not a wishing well. I can't just fix your life and resurrect your parents." But on the outside, Klein is a master of deception. He remembers a sacred rule from the City of Silver that Derrick had just thought of in his mind. Do not look directly at God. Knowing he has to maintain his absolute authority, Klein leans back into his high-backed chair. He adopts a posture of profound, unfathomable power and replies in perfect, fluent Jotun. "I am not God. I am merely the fool who is interested in the long history of this world." Derrick is completely stunned. He doesn't care if this being calls himself God, a devil, or the fool. To Derrick, this is the first time in over 2.5 millennia that anyone or anything has answered a prayer from the forsaken land of God. Derrick desperately begs the fool to lift the curse of his people. He asks for the sun and the blue sky to return. He even asks, heartbreakingly, if his parents can be revived. He offers his soul and his blood as absolute payment, but Klein, maintaining his majestic, untouchable persona, chuckles softly. He rejects the blood sacrifice, knowing that accepting it would paint him as an evil, demonic god. Instead, he tells Derrick, "I'm a fool that likes a fair and equal exchange. I can give you a chance to be strong. Perhaps one day, you can rely on your own strength to free the City of Silver from its curse and make the sun appear in your sky once again. But you must give me something of equal value in return. The history of your world." What follows in chapter 138 is one of the most incredible and vital lore exchanges in the early volumes of the novel, fundamentally expanding the world building of Lord of the Mysteries. As the chapter opens, Klein's mind goes into overdrive analyzing Derrick's reference to an omnipotent and omniscient god. Drawing on his knowledge as a historian and Nighthawk, Klein realizes that in the northern continent, no orthodox deity, not the Evernight goddess, the Lord of Storms, or the God of Steam, dares to claim true omnipotence or omniscience. Only ancient creator myths and fanatical secret organizations like the Aurora Order use such grand titles for the true creator. This confirms to Klein that the Forsaken Land of God is indeed part of their shared world, merely trapped in a bygone era where ancient Third Epic titles are still used. Derrick, intimidated by the profound gaze of the fool, lowers his head and begins to recount the tragic history of the City of Silver. He details the terrifying cataclysm. The sun abruptly vanished, the heavens were torn apart, and humanity was plunged into a dark age, ruled by unending lightning and horrifying monsters that destroyed the Kingdom of Silver. Derrick explains how surviving experts used their united strength and 2 magical items to secure a one-day safe zone, establishing the City of Silver to protect the last spark of human civilization. Klein listens intently, noting the bizarre, almost alien nature of their existence. Derrick reveals the grim reality of their survival over the exact span of 2,582 years. With no sun, they rely on a confusing timekeeping system tracked by their chiefs, where periods of frequent lightning are considered day, and subsiding lightning is night. Facing mass starvation, they survived only because of the black-faced grass, a resilient plant they believe to be a final miraculous gift from the creator. As the population recovered, the city formed a 6-member council and sent elite Beyonder troops into the terrifying darkness. They discovered destroyed sanctuaries of other human settlements, proving they weren't alone, but that the others had failed. More importantly, Derrick mentions that killing monsters in these ruins yields incomplete potion formulas. This seemingly casual detail hits Klein with a terrifying realization. If monsters are dropping Beyonder formulas, it implies a horrifying truth. These things of the dark are not just beasts, but mutated, heavily corrupted humans and Beyonders from fallen cities. The psychological weight of this realization settles heavily on Klein's shoulders. Derrick then details the City of Silver's power structure. Because they were once ruled by the Giant King, their primary Beyonder route is the Giant Pathway. Derrick lists the sequence names: Sequence 9 Beyonder Warrior, 8 Gladiator, 7 Weapons Master, 6 Dawn Paladin, 5 Guardian, and finally Sequence 4 Demon Hunter. Klein is thrilled to finally learn the name of a high-sequence demigod potion. Furthermore, he connects the dots. This pathway perfectly mirrors the sequence controlled by the Church of the God of Combat in the outside world. Klein astutely deduces that the current God of Combat either inherited the ancient giant King Ormir's authority, or is in fact a surviving ancient giant himself. However, a chilling revelation comes when Derrick describes the current 6-member council. It consists of a chief and 5 equals, boasting a terrifying roster of 3 demon hunters and 2 guardians. Klein nervously notes that a trio of demigods could annihilate his infant tarot club 100 times over. But the final council member is an anomaly. Elder Lovia, who holds a pathway discovered in the ruined cities, the Shepherd class. Derrick explains that she was granted an exceptional seat on the council because she is incredibly powerful, bizarre, and terrifying, having once defeated a high-sequence evil spirit completely unharmed. Klein's inner alarm bells ring loudly. He knows the Shepherd class is sequence 5 of an evil pathway. Masking his shock, Klein casually probes for the names of the lower sequences. Derrick stubbornly insists the ancient names have never changed, listing them Sequence 9 Secrets Suppliant, 8 Whispered Listener, 7 Shadow Ascetic, 6 Rose Bishop, and 5 Shepherd. Klein is secretly ecstatic. He now possesses more knowledge than the official Nighthawk files, but he also realizes the grim reality. Elder Lovia is walking the exact same corrupt, maddening pathway utilized by the fanatical Aurora Order, worshippers of the true creator. Her high position in the City of Silver foreshadows immense danger. Finally, Derrick reveals the most heartbreaking tragedy of his people, the Curse of Destiny. Every single citizen of the City of Silver, from the lowest commoner to the highest beyonder, will turn into a horrific, murderous evil spirit upon death. The only way to prevent a loved one from rising as a monster and destroying the city is a cruel absolute. They must be executed by someone sharing their own bloodline. Playing the role of the unfathomable deity, Klein can only offer empty platitudes and internal chicken soup for the soul to comfort the traumatized youth. This devastating reality fuels Derrick's ultimate goal. He speaks his deepest, most painful wish to the Fool. I want to be the sun. In ancient legends before the Cataclysm, the curse of the evil spirits did not exist when the sun shone over the land. By asking for the sun pathway, Derrick wants to literally become the light to break his people's eternal curse. Klein subtly nods, promising Derrick his chance, and instructs him to find a secluded spot in the next 2 days, perfectly setting the stage for their future transactions. Satisfied that the exchange of information is complete, Klein decides to officially induct Derrick into his secret organization. He points to a deck of tarot cards resting on the ancient bronze table. Confident that Derrick has never seen tarot cards before, he gives a brief explanation and tells the boy to choose his codename. He tells him he can pick anything except for the Fool, Justice, and the Hanged Man. Derrick takes 2 steps forward. He looks down at the mystical cards. He doesn't hesitate, driven by his absolute, unbreakable desperation to bring light to his cursed, dark world. He selects a specific card. Sun. I pick the sun. Klein smiles from behind the impenetrable fog. He speaks like a true ancient seer. Remember your choice. It will follow you for the rest of your life. With a graceful wave of his hand, Klein severs the connection. The crimson light recedes and Derrick's spirit turns incorporeal, fading from the gray fog and returning to the real world. In chapter 139, Derrick snaps awake. He is back in his dark, cold bedroom. In his hands, the ancient crystal ball cracks and violently shatters into pieces, its magic completely drained by the immense power of the gray fog. But Derrick doesn't care about the broken relic. He looks down at the back of his right hand there. Glowing with a faint, spiraling crimson light is a strange symbol. It is an eye without a pupil, surrounded by contorted lines. It is the symbol of the Fool. It burns into his flesh for a moment, branding him before vanishing beneath his skin. Derrick stands up. He walks out of his bedroom and looks up at the sky above the City of Silver. A massive arc of silver lightning tears through the absolute blackness, followed by the deafening roar of thunder. The world still belongs to the dark, the oppressive, heavy darkness that leaves people in despair. Derrick clenches his fists. The grief and pain of murdering his parents are still there, burning in his chest. But as he looks at the sky, something has changed. He is no longer lost. He is the sun, and he finally has a god on his side. Meanwhile, back up in the gray fog, we get a hilarious reality check. The all-powerful, mysterious god who just recruited a new devout believer lets out a deep breath. Klein chuckles to himself, thinking, "Phew, looks like I've managed to trick another person into joining." No, wait, recruit. Klein can't help but mock the current strength of his supposedly grand tarot club. Think about it. Here he is, the grand leader, the fool, acting like an ancient, unfathomable deity when in reality he is literally just a bottom-tier sequence 9 seer who just finally managed to digest his potion. Meanwhile, the sun just casually mentioned that his hopeless cursed city has at least 3 high sequence beyonders at sequence 4. The sheer audacity of Klein pulling this off and scamming a kid from a city of demigods is incredible. But Klein knows he can't stay a weak sequence 9 forever. He formulates a plan. Now that his potion is digested, he resolves to mention the acting method to Captain Dunn Smith one more time, so he can finally submit his special application to advance. His immediate goal? To reach sequence 8 Clown so he can finally stop being the squishy backline support guy for the Nighthawks. Not wanting to linger in the spirit world, Klein initiates his descent. He tears through the gray fog, safely passes the terrifying ravings, and returns to his physical body in Tingen City. He dispels his wall of spirituality, successfully concluding one of the most important meetings in the history of the Lord of the Mysteries universe. And that, my friends, is the complete, exhaustive explanation of Special Episode 1 of Lord of the Mysteries. The introduction of the City of Silver and Derrick Berg completely shatters the scale of the story. It proves that the Tarot Club isn't just a bunch of nobles and pirates playing political games in Backland. It is a cosmic organization that spans across space, time, and entirely different dimensions. Now, if you've read the novel, you might be screaming at your screen right now, "Hey, didn't Derrick officially meet Audrey and Alger in the Tarot Club right after this?" Yes, he absolutely did. In the novel, Derrick joins the very next tarot gathering and completely shocks Justice and the Hanged Man with his ancient knowledge. But the anime studio made a brilliant cinematic directing choice. They decided to save Derrick's introduction to the rest of the club for the next special episodes. This allowed Special Episode 1 to focus entirely on his dark emotional backstory without breaking the incredible tension they built up. And trust me, you're going to want to see what happens next. In Special Episodes 2 and 3 titled The Marked Hunt, Audrey uses the information she gets from Derrick to hire 2 brand new, fan-favorite characters to hunt down a terrifying, face-stealing pirate admiral roaming the streets of Backland. We're going to break down all the lore of the Creeping Hunger Glove, the epic Backland assassination attempt, the introduction of Forz and Co, and the badass god-tier return of Mr. Ezek in our next video. If you enjoyed this massive deep dive, please leave a like, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments below. If you were trapped in the City of Silver, which sequence pathway would you choose to survive the dark? Until next time, praise the Fool, and I'll see you in the gray fog.